Well, good morning, everybody. This is Pete, Happy Shaver. Right now I have this razor. It had some old English razor embossing on the black bovine horn scales. So it has pretty old scales, which is pretty cool. But the markings on the tang really tell us not a whole lot. But overall, the scales are in good condition. It's a full hollow ground, as you can see. Those scales are really dry. They'll have to be oiled up, and that razor, of course, needs a hone. So we're going to be doing that today. There are the markings there at the end. You can see the Sons, and then that cross, and I think it's this one from Joseph Rodgers and Sons, Cutlery to Her Majesty. It doesn't have the what do you call it, the warrant from the monarchy, but it still has that that cross, which I think is really cool. Here we're just setting the edge, making it straight. I'm not doing very much because I didn't feel a whole lot of pops when you put it against your fingernail there. If you feel pops or like jimps or something, but none were there, so we're gonna call it good. So now I'm going to the 1000 grit Japanese water stone. Back and forth. You get the idea. It's just more of the same. I use one stone. This one, for some reason, this razor, the edge just wouldn't set. I think I should have considered using some black tape on the spine, but since it was hollow ground, usually the geometry on hollow grounds is pretty well defined. You don't want to mess that up. So I didn't put tape on it. But I went back and forth. You can see here that that new velvety edge, not quite velvety, but anyway, it's a new edge there at the end. Then I flip it over and go to the 6000 grit water stone. Some more water on it, and you guessed it, back to the old grindstone. Should have zoomed up a little bit on that first stone, but you can still see grind marks on the very, very edge of it after the first stone, even though it is a water stone. It's made for razors. Here you notice I'm putting my left thumb on different parts of the razor because I noticed that they aren't getting worn evenly. So here I have it on the very heel, so it's like I'm working the heel pretty tough. Then I put it in the middle, right on the belly, or I moved it so you could see. Right there on the belly of the blade. And then here I do a little bit of leading edge work. So you actually go forward and you can see the edge. Some of those grind marks are coming out on that 5000 grit stone. And it just looks so cool when it starts to turn mirror polish. And then onto the Arkansas black stone. This one's not a water stone, it's an oil stone. So I use 3-in-1. And this one works pretty well. I do leading edge work on the Arkansas Blackstone, and then I do a spine first. This one's really fun. It's like a swooping, and the Arkansas Blackstone feels like glass. Onto a wooden strop here. Back, yeah, speed it up quite a bit, but this one has the green polish on it. There you can see it's really turning mirror polish there at the very edge, which looks great. Even bevel all the way across, and then on to bare leather. I'm taking some Vaseline. Like I said, the scales were pretty darn dry, and so I'm going to put a little bit of oil, well, in this case, Vaseline. Vaseline has a really long working time. It's not just like pure liquid oil. So I leave the Vaseline on there overnight, and I also work it into the scales. I don't think I showed that, but I was concerned about this. It looked like what looked like a break, but it was actually a scratch. Way back in the day, people would put their names in it. You could probably make out just a hint of a name. Someone had scratched something, VA, something in there. Guys would put their names in their razors because it was like their thing, it's their one razor. And that just looks like a scratch there. It's maybe a little bit of horn separation, but that oil will treat it. And now we're going to go on to the test. Doing the face shave today with a new scuttle my wife got me for Christmas. So yay! I really like that scuttle. Yes, going on to face shave because I have to test whether or not it can handle like the thickest hair I got, and that's on the face where my face is the most sensitive and the hair is the thickest. So I want to give it a good hard test, especially if I plan on selling this thing. So we're going to do a little bit of the cheek, and then the chin is really where I'm concerned. And if you have any questions, like specifically, I've had people reach out on YouTube, you can get me at thehappyshaver@gmail.com, or you can go to my Etsy store and message me that way. My Etsy store is Happy Shaver on Etsy. I sell the razors that turned out well. This one, as you can see, I'm not like super impressed with it. And give the face, and so I'm going to give it a test with the chin, and you might be able to see that it leaves hairs behind. I'm going as lightly as I can, and it's supposed to be so sharp that it will just pop those hairs off, and it is not. So got to figure out, do I set a whole new bevel? I'm going to start with no. I'm just going to polish it because that edge looked pretty dang good, and I'm guessing that it's because I didn't give it a whole 100 passes on the polishing strop. In any case, I wasn't happy with it, so we're just going to see if that edge just needed to be polished. You can see there it's doing a lot better. Might take it back to the Arkansas just for funsies. But that edge, the shaving edge of a razor is microscopic. You cannot see the actual shaving edge of a good razor. And so you need to go whisper light on those stones, and then you need to polish it and strop it gently there at the end, because that microscopic edge needs to be respected. Otherwise, you just lose it. It'll curl over in a way you can't see, or it'll just go, and as Bob Ross says, it'll just go and leave you. It won't play. But this with some polishing actually is doing much better. So I looked up some research for the Joseph Rodgers and Sons company, and according to a trade advertisement, it was founded in 1800. The name didn't appear in Sheffield directories until 1871, when the firm of Joseph Rodgers was listed as a spring knife manufacturer on Norfolk Street. You may have heard of Norfolk Street before. It's a lot of really popular razors come out of Norfolk Street for some reason. That seemed to be like the cutlery district. And then in that directory in 1871 is described as the successor to Joseph Rodgers and Sons. So it was Joseph Rodgers and Sons was earlier than 1871. And then there was a really famous article written in 1922 by a guy named Henry Lummus. And that article in 1821, it was written in 1922, and this guy loved old world wedge ground straight razors. Lumos wrote this article. He was actually a judge at the time, but anyway, he was an aficionado, much like us. And in 1821, Joseph Rodgers and Sons secured an appointment as cutlers to His Majesty King George IV, an honor which encouraged them to greater efforts and stimulated their competitors. About that time arose the practices of scoring the top and bottom of the tang with file cutouts or flutings to keep the fingers from slipping, and of stamping the initials of the sovereign. GR, which became WR, the accession of William IV in 1830, and VR with the reign of Queen Victoria. So you guys know VR is Victoria Regina. It's just Latin for Queen. And then GR would be George Rex, which is King George. So those are what the GR and the VR mean in those stamped razors. As we know from this razor, it didn't get any warranted stamps on the tang. In fact, the only thing I got was the Sons, and then that cross, which I was pretty certain is a Joseph Rodgers and Sons, and based on the tang, didn't see in England there at the end, and the handles were made out of horn, which kind of fell out of popular use in around the 1920s. So I'm guessing this is prior to 1920, and it's from a cutler that didn't exist after about 1940. So I'd probably date this razor as late 1800s. But of course, the English way of full hollow grinding came about because the German razors started to do that in a big way. German razors were very hollow ground, and so then the English started to take off doing that as well. But that again was around the later 1800s, which is why I would place that razor in the later 1800s. Yeah, you can see a little bit of hair left on my chin, and not bad for a first pass. So here I'm lathering up, and I'm going to go for a second pass. If you stayed around with me for this long, man, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the kind words people have said, and the great community of shavers that have come around and supported me in making these videos, and all the watchers who've commented on the videos. I can't imagine that somebody would want to stick around for a 12-minute video, but people do, and I really appreciate it. Shaving is such a hobby. I think of restoring these pieces of history that meant something, and now all those cutlery shops on Norfolk Street, the Washington Works of Wolstenholme, and they're all gone. They're all gone. You could go to those places in England, and you might see a brick wall that used to belong to Washington Works or something like that. But man, this is wonderful that all the support of the community to get these antiques going. Yeah, not a bad second pass, and happy shaving.